Imagine this. A monk places a bowl of clear water in front of you. He says, "Nothing." You look into it, and you see your reflection, still, calm, undisturbed. Then he picks up a small stone and drops it in. The surface breaks. Ripples spread. Your reflection distorts. He looks at you and asks, "Did the water lose itself, or did it react?" You don't answer. So he drops another stone, then another. Each time, the water shakes. Each time, the image disappears. Then he says something strange. "If I control the stones, I control the water." And suddenly, it hits you. The water was never attacked. It only reacted. Now listen carefully. You are that water. Every word someone says is a stone. Every opinion, a stone. Every judgment, a stone. And as long as you react to every stone, anyone who throws them controls you. They don't need strength. They don't need power. They only need your reaction. And the moment you ripple, you lose your clarity. Your peace breaks. Your identity distorts. But the monk doesn't stop there. He gently lifts the bowl and lets it rest again. The water becomes still, clear, untouched. And he says, "The power was never in stopping the stones. It was in becoming still, even when they fall." This is what Buddhism points to, not a life without disturbance, but a mind that is no longer moved by it. Because when the water stays still, no one can control what it reflects. And when your mind becomes like that, no one can control you. When you explain yourself to everyone, you hand them control over your identity. There's a quiet trap you don't notice at first. It doesn't look dangerous. It doesn't feel like something is being taken from you. It feels like honesty. It feels like clarity. It feels like you're just trying to be understood. So you explain yourself. You explain your decisions. You explain your choices. You explain your silence. You say things like, "I just want you to understand where I'm coming from." And in that moment, it feels right. Because being understood feels safe. It feels like connection. It feels like control. But slowly, something begins to shift. You don't notice it immediately. It happens quietly, almost invisibly. At first, you only explain when someone asks. Then, you start explaining before they even ask. You start preparing your words, rehearsing your reasons, adjusting your story, just in case someone misunderstands. And now, you are no longer just living. You are managing perception. You are thinking about how everything you do will look, how it will sound, how it will be judged. And without realizing it, you have stepped out of your own life and into the minds of others. In Buddhism, this is where suffering quietly begins, because awareness is no longer centered within you. It is scattered across other people's opinions. You start asking questions like, will they agree? Will they understand? Will they approve? And these questions begin to guide your actions. Not truth, not clarity, not inner stillness, but approval. And the more you depend on approval, the more power you give away. Because now, your peace is no longer yours. It depends on how others respond. If they understand, you feel calm. If they don't, you feel disturbed. If they agree, you feel confident. If they question you, you feel shaken. And just like that, your emotional state is no longer self-directed. It is controlled externally. This is the hidden cost of over-explaining. You think you are gaining understanding, but you are losing authority. Because every time you explain yourself excessively, you are silently asking for permission. Permission to be accepted. Permission to be seen as valid. Permission to exist the way you are. And once you start asking for permission, others begin to feel like they have the right to give it or deny it. That is how control is handed over. Not forcefully, not aggressively, but willingly. Now notice something deeper. When you constantly explain yourself, you are also reinforcing a quiet belief inside you. A belief that says, my actions are not enough on their own. My truth needs support. My choices need approval to be valid. And this belief slowly weakens your inner foundation, because instead of trusting your own awareness, you start relying on external confirmation. But in Buddhism, true clarity does not come from outside. It comes from seeing clearly within. A mind that is aware does not rush to justify itself. It does not feel the urgency to correct every misunderstanding, because it understands something most people don't. That not being understood is not a problem. It only becomes a problem when your peace depends on being understood. Look closely at your own behavior. Think about the moments you feel the strongest urge to explain yourself. It's usually when you feel misunderstood, judged, questioned, and in those moments, you feel a kind of pressure, a need to fix the image, to clear the confusion, to restore how others see you. But that pressure is not coming from truth. It's coming from attachment to image, attachment to perception, attachment to being seen in a certain way. And attachment always creates suffering, because perception is unstable. People misunderstand. People assume. People project their own beliefs onto you. You cannot control that. No matter how clearly you explain, someone will still interpret it differently. So if your peace depends on controlling how others see you, your peace will always be fragile. But there is another way, a quieter way, a stronger way. Instead of explaining, you observe. Instead of reacting, you remain aware. You let people think what they want, without feeling the need to chase correction. Not because you don't care, but because you are no longer attached. You understand that your truth does not become stronger just because someone agrees with it, and it does not become weaker just because someone questions it. Truth stands on its own. It doesn't need constant defense. It doesn't need endless explanation. It only needs clarity within you. And when you have that clarity, your presence changes. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You explain less, but your actions become clearer. You stop trying to control perception, and you start living from awareness. And something powerful happens. People may still misunderstand you. They may still question you, but it no longer disturbs you the same way, because your identity is no longer built on how others see you. It is grounded in how clearly you see yourself. And that is where real freedom begins. Because the moment you stop over-explaining, you stop asking for permission to be who you are. You stop negotiating your truth. You stop adjusting your identity for acceptance. You return to yourself. And when you return to yourself, you take your power back. When you expose your weaknesses carelessly, you hand others the exact buttons to control you. It usually doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like connection. You're sitting with someone. The moment feels safe. The conversation feels real. So you open up. You talk about what hurt you, what you struggle with, what you fear deep down. Maybe you say, I don't usually tell people this, but... And in that moment, you feel relief. Because something inside you finally comes out. Something you've been holding is released. And it feels like strength. It feels like honesty. But slowly, something deeper is happening. Not everyone listens with the same intention you speak with. Some people listen to understand, but others listen to remember. They don't interrupt you. They don't question you. They don't make you feel unsafe. They just listen, quietly, carefully. and you take that silence as trust. But sometimes it's not trust, it's collection, because what you share in openness becomes information in someone else's mind. And information can be used, not always immediately, not always obviously, but subtly, in small moments, in quiet ways. You might not notice it at first. A comment that feels slightly targeted, a joke that hits a little too close, a reaction that triggers something inside you, and you pause because it feels familiar. It touches something you revealed, and suddenly you feel exposed. This is the hidden risk of careless vulnerability. In Buddhism, awareness is protection. You are not told to close your heart. You are not told to become distant or cold, but you are taught to be aware, to see clearly who you are opening up to, because not everyone has the capacity to hold your truth with care. Some people carry their own insecurities, their own ego, their own unconscious patterns, and when they receive your vulnerability, they don't always treat it with respect. Sometimes they compare it, sometimes they judge it, sometimes they use it, and the moment someone knows what shakes you, they can move you without effort. Think about it. If someone knows what you fear, they can trigger it. If someone knows what makes you insecure, they can press it. If someone knows where you feel weak, they can subtly remind you of it. And now, your emotional state is no longer fully yours. It can be influenced, shifted, controlled. That is where power quietly leaves your hands. But there's something even deeper. When you expose your weaknesses without awareness, you are not just giving others access. You are also reinforcing your own identity around those weaknesses. Every time you repeat your fears, you strengthen them. Every time you describe your insecurities, you make them more real inside your mind. And slowly, you begin to see yourself through them. I'm someone who struggles with this. I'm someone who gets affected easily. I'm someone who can't handle that. And this becomes your internal narrative. In Buddhism, this is how suffering is sustained, not just by external influence, but by internal identification. You don't just feel the weakness, you become it. And once you become it, it becomes easier for others to influence you through it. This is why awareness matters so deeply. You don't stop being human. You don't suppress your emotions, but you become intentional. You ask yourself, who am I sharing this with? Do they have the awareness to hold this? Or am I just reacting to a moment of comfort? Because not every safe feeling comes from a safe person. Sometimes it comes from your own desire to be understood. And that desire can make you overlook awareness. True strength is not in exposing everything. It is in knowing what to share, when to share, and with whom. There are people who will hear your truth and hold it with care. They will not use it against you. They will not store it as leverage, but they are rare. And awareness helps you recognize them. Until then, you protect your inner world, not by hiding, but by choosing, because your inner world is not small. It is not casual. It is powerful. And once you allow the wrong person into it, you give them access to influence something very deep within you. So, you become still. You observe. You don't rush to open up just because the moment feels right. You let time reveal people. You let consistency show their intention. And only then you allow access. Because vulnerability without awareness is exposure. But vulnerability with awareness is strength. And the moment you learn that difference, you stop handing out the keys to your mind. You stop giving people the exact buttons that can control you, and you begin to protect your peace without closing your heart. When you crave validation, you sell your peace for other people's opinions. It doesn't start as something obvious. It feels small, almost harmless. You do something, and then you pause. Not to reflect, not to observe, but to check. Did they notice? Did they react? Did they approve? At first, it feels natural. You share something. You wait for a response, a message, a reaction, a sign that what you did mattered. And when it comes, you feel it. A small lift inside you, a sense of relief, a quiet confirmation that says, I'm okay. But when it doesn't come, something shifts. A small drop in your chest, a subtle discomfort, a question that appears, was it not good enough? That's where the trap begins, because now your state is no longer coming from within. It is being decided by something outside of you, and you don't notice how fast this grows. You start adjusting your behavior. You think about what gets attention, what gets approval, what gets accepted, and slowly, you stop asking a deeper question. Is this true to me? You replace it with, will this be liked? In Buddhism, this is attachment in one of its most subtle forms. Not attachment to objects, not attachment to people, but attachment to reaction, to validation, to being seen in a certain way. And attachment always comes with a cost, because the moment your peace depends on something unstable, your peace becomes unstable. And people are unstable. Their moods change. Their opinions shift. Their attention fades without warning. One day they support you. Another day they ignore you. One moment they praise you. Another moment they question you. If your worth is tied to that, you will keep rising and falling with them. And that is not freedom. That is emotional dependence. Look closely at what begins to happen. You start measuring yourself through others, not through awareness, not through clarity, but through response. If people respond well, you feel confident. If they don't, you feel uncertain. And slowly, your identity becomes flexible, not in a healthy way, but in a reactive way. You shape yourself based on what gets accepted. You say things differently. You act differently. You even think differently, not because it is true, but because it is approved. And without realizing it, you begin to lose yourself, because your actions are no longer coming from understanding. They are coming from a need to be seen, a need to be validated, a need to feel enough through others. In Buddhism, this is where suffering deepens, because you are chasing something that can never fully satisfy you. Validation feels good, but only temporarily. It fades quickly, and once it fades, you look for it again. You repeat the cycle. You seek, you receive, you lose, you seek again. And this loop keeps you dependent. It keeps you externally driven. It keeps you controlled, because now, anyone who controls their response to you can influence your state. They don't need to argue with you. They don't need to dominate you. They just need to withhold approval. And suddenly, you feel it. That discomfort, that need to adjust, that urge to do something, to regain it. That is control. Quiet, invisible, but powerful. Now look deeper. Why does validation feel so strong? Because it touches something inside you. A part that wants to feel seen. A part that wants to feel worthy. A part that wants to feel accepted. And there is nothing wrong with that. But when you rely on others to fulfill it, you give them authority over your inner state. In Buddhism, awareness brings this to light. It shows you that the need itself is not the problem. The unconscious dependence on it is. Because when you are aware, you see the craving as it arises. You feel the urge to check. You notice the desire for approval, but instead of following it, you observe it, and something changes. The urge loses its power because you are no longer identified with it. You don't become the craving, you see it. And in that space, you are free. You begin to act differently. You still create. You still speak. You still express. But now, it comes from clarity, not from the need to be validated. You do something, and you don't immediately look around. You let it exist. You let it stand on its own. And, slowly, your center returns to you. Your peace stabilizes. Because it is no longer tied to reactions. It is grounded in awareness. And this is where real power begins. Because when you stop craving validation, you stop being controlled by it. People can support you, and it won't inflate you. People can ignore you, and it won't break you. People can question you, and it won't shake your foundation. Because your worth is no longer negotiated externally. It is understood internally, and that changes everything. You stop chasing approval. You stop adjusting your truth. You stop measuring your value through unstable opinions, and you return to something much deeper, a quiet certainty, a stillness that doesn't need confirmation, a presence that doesn't need applause, because you finally see. Peace does not come from being validated. It comes from not needing validation at all. When you react to everything, you let anyone control your emotional state. It happens faster than you think. So fast, you don't even see it. A word is said, a tone feels off, a look lingers a second too long, and before you even understand what's happening, something inside you moves. Your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, your mood shifts. You feel pulled, irritated, defensive, disturbed, and it feels automatic, like you had no choice, like something outside you just changed your inner world. But look closely, nothing actually forced you. There was no physical control, no real power being used against you. Just a moment, just a trigger, and yet it moved you. In Buddhism, this is the hidden doorway where control enters. Not through force, but through reaction, because the moment you react without awareness, you are no longer choosing your state. You are being moved by it. And when that happens, anyone who can trigger you can control you. They don't need strength. They don't need authority. They only need access to your reactions. And most people give that access freely, without even realizing it. Think about how often this happens. Someone criticizes you, and your mind immediately defends. Someone ignores you, and your mood drops. Someone disrespects you, and anger rises instantly. It feels justified. It feels like the natural response. But the truth is, it is conditioned. Your mind has been trained to react, trained to respond instantly to discomfort, trained to protect identity, trained to fight anything that feels like a threat. And because of that training, you move before you see. You react before you understand. And in that space, you lose control. In Buddhism, awareness is the interruption. It is the moment where you stop being pulled and start seeing clearly. But without awareness, you become predictable. If someone knows what irritates you, they can trigger it. If someone knows what offends you, they can use it. If someone knows what gets under your skin, they can control your state without effort. And that's the part most people never realize. They think control comes from power, status, or dominance. But real control often comes from emotional access, from knowing how to move someone internally. And the more reactive you are, the easier you are to move, because your state is not stable. It is responsive, dependent, available to be influenced. Now go deeper. Every reaction has a root. It is not random. It is connected to something inside you, a belief, an identity, a fear. When someone says something, it doesn't hurt you by itself. It activates something that is already there. And that activation becomes your reaction. So when you react instantly, you are not just responding to the moment. You are responding to your conditioning, your past experiences, your insecurities, your attachments. And because you don't see it, you think the problem is outside. You think the person caused your state. But in Buddhism, this is seen differently. The external event is just a trigger. The reaction comes from within. And once you see that, everything begins to change. Because now, you don't rush to react. You pause. Even if it's just for a second, you notice the feeling rise, the irritation, the anger, the discomfort. But instead of becoming it, you observe it. You watch it, without immediately acting on it. And in that moment, something powerful happens. You create space, a gap between the trigger and your response. And inside that gap, control returns to you. Because now, you can choose. You can still respond. You can still speak. You can still act. But it comes from awareness, not impulse. And that changes everything. Because a person who reacts instantly is easy to control, but a person who observes first becomes unpredictable, stable, grounded. No one can easily move them. No one can shift their state with a simple word, because their inner world is not open to instant influence. Now, understand this clearly. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is not about becoming cold or unresponsive. You still feel everything, but you don't become everything you feel. You let the emotion arise, but you don't let it decide for you. That is awareness. That is discipline. That is freedom. Because the moment you stop reacting to everything, you stop giving everyone access to your state. Their words lose power. Their actions lose control. Not because they changed, but because you did. You are no longer available to be moved unconsciously. And that is where real strength begins. Not in controlling others, but in no longer being controlled by them. Because when your response is chosen, not triggered, no one can control your emotional state without your permission. When you try to please everyone, you erase your true self without realizing it. It never begins as something harmful. It begins as kindness. You want things to feel smooth. You want people to feel comfortable around you. You don't want tension. You don't want conflict. So you adjust. You soften your words. You change your tone. You hold back what you really think, just a little. And it feels right. Because no one is upset. No one is uncomfortable. Everything stays calm. But slowly, something deeper begins to happen. You start paying attention to reactions. Who seems happy with you? Who seems slightly distant? Who seems uncomfortable? And, without realizing it, you begin shaping yourself around those reactions. You say yes when you actually feel no. You agree. When something inside you doesn't fully agree, you go along, even when your energy is telling you to step back. And, at first, it feels small, like you're just being flexible, like you're just being easy to be around. But flexibility without awareness becomes self-erasure, because every time you ignore your own truth, you move further away from it. And the distance grows quietly. You don't notice it in one moment. You notice it over time. You start feeling tired without knowing why. Drained, even in calm situations. Because something inside you is constantly being suppressed. Your real thoughts, your real preferences, your real boundaries. In Buddhism, this is a subtle form of attachment. Not attachment to people themselves, but attachment to harmony, to being liked, to being accepted, to being seen as easy. But forced harmony is not peace. It is pressure, because you are constantly managing how others feel while ignoring how you feel. And that imbalance creates suffering. Now look deeper. Why do you try to please everyone? Because somewhere inside, there is a fear of rejection, a fear of conflict, a fear of losing connection. So you adjust yourself to avoid that fear. But in doing that, you create a different problem. You lose connection with yourself. And this is where control quietly shifts. Because when you are trying to please everyone, you are no longer choosing your actions freely. You are responding to expectations, to moods, to reactions, to unspoken pressure. And now, your behavior is being guided externally, not by awareness, but by approval. That means anyone who shows discomfort can influence you. Anyone who withdraws slightly can make you adjust. Anyone who reacts negatively can shift your direction. That is control, not loud, not obvious, but constant. You begin living in response instead of intention. And over time, something even deeper happens. You forget what you actually want because you've spent so long asking, what will make them comfortable? You stop asking, what is true for me? And that question becomes unfamiliar. You hesitate before speaking your mind. You doubt your own preferences. You feel unsure about your own direction, not because you are lost, but because you've been ignoring yourself for too long. In Buddhism, awareness brings you back. It reminds you that peace does not come from pleasing everyone. It comes from alignment, from acting in a way that is true, clear, and conscious. This doesn't mean becoming harsh. It doesn't mean rejecting others. It means being honest, without aggression, being clear, without guilt, being grounded, even when others are not. Because real connection is not built on constant agreement. It is built on authenticity. When you start living honestly, some people may feel uncomfortable, some may not like it, some may pull away, and that can feel difficult at first. But that discomfort is temporary. What is permanent is the connection you rebuild with yourself. You begin to feel lighter, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer divided. You are no longer saying one thing and feeling another. You are no longer acting one way and thinking another. There is alignment, and in that alignment, there is strength, because now your actions come from awareness, not pressure, not fear, not the need to please. And when your actions come from awareness, they cannot be easily controlled. People can still have expectations. They can still react, but their reactions no longer shape you, because you are no longer adjusting just to keep them comfortable. You are acting from clarity, and that changes your presence completely. You become steady, calm, unmoved by every shift around you, because your center is no longer outside, it is within. And once you stop trying to please everyone, you stop giving everyone power over you. You stop shrinking your truth. You stop silencing your voice. You stop negotiating your identity for temporary comfort. And you begin living in a way that is real, not perfect, not always accepted, but true. And in that truth, you take your power back. When you hold on to what's over, you let the past quietly own your present. It doesn't feel like you're holding on. It feels like you're just remembering. You revisit a moment, a person, a version of your life that once felt right, and at first, it seems harmless. You tell yourself, I'm just thinking about it. But slowly, it becomes something else. You don't just remember, you return. Again and again, you replay conversations. You imagine different endings. You go back to what was said, what wasn't said, what could have been. And each time, it pulls you in a little deeper. You feel something rise: regret, longing, confusion. And even though the moment is gone, the emotion feels present. This is how the past begins to take control, not by existing, but by being repeated. In Buddhism, attachment to the past is one of the deepest forms of suffering, because you are trying to hold something that no longer exists in reality. It exists only in memory, and memory is not stable. It is shaped by emotion, by perspective, by what you wish had happened. So, every time you return to it, you are not even seeing the past clearly. You are seeing a version of it, colored by your current state. And that version keeps you attached. Now, look at what this attachment does. It keeps your attention behind you. Instead of being here, in the present moment, your mind is somewhere else, in a conversation that already ended, in a moment that already passed, in a version of life that no longer exists. And while your attention is there, your present loses energy, your focus weakens, your clarity fades, your awareness becomes divided. You may be physically present, but mentally, you are not here. And where your attention goes, your power follows. So, if your attention is stuck in the past, your power is stuck there too. That is how the past begins to own your present, not by force, but by your continued attachment to it. Now go deeper. Why do you hold on? Because something feels unfinished. Something feels unresolved. Maybe you didn't get closure. Maybe you didn't get the answer you wanted. Maybe something ended without clarity. So your mind tries to complete it. It keeps returning, hoping to find resolution. But here is the truth. The past cannot be completed by revisiting it. It can only be released by understanding it. In Buddhism, awareness replaces repetition. Instead of going back into the memory, you observe what it is doing to you now. You notice the pattern, how often you return, what you feel when you do, how it affects your state afterward. And as you observe, you begin to see clearly. This is not helping me. This is not changing anything. This is only keeping me stuck. And in that clarity, something begins to loosen, because attachment weakens when it is seen clearly. Now, understand this. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending nothing happened. It means releasing the emotional grip that the past has on you. It means no longer allowing it to control your present state, because as long as you are emotionally tied to it, it continues to influence you, your mood, your decisions, your direction. You may think you've moved on, but if the memory still shifts your state instantly, it still holds power. And power given to the past is power taken from the present. Now, imagine something different. The memory is still there, but it doesn't pull you the same way. It appears, and you see it, without entering it. Without replaying it, you acknowledge it and let it pass. That is awareness. That is freedom, because now the past is no longer controlling your state. It is just something that happened, and once it becomes that, your energy returns to you. Your attention comes back to the present. Your clarity sharpens. And now you can actually move forward, not while dragging the past behind you, but by standing fully here. In Buddhism, the present moment is the only place where life is happening, not in memory, not in imagination, only here. And when you are fully here, you have power. Power to choose, power to act, power to change direction. But that power is only available when your attention is not trapped behind you. So you learn to release, not forcefully, not aggressively, but consciously. You stop feeding the past with constant attention. You stop revisiting what cannot be changed. You stop asking questions that have no answers anymore. And slowly, the grip weakens, the pull fades, the weight lifts, because you are no longer holding it. And when you are no longer holding it, it can no longer hold you. That is the shift. From being controlled by the past to being present within yourself. And the moment that shift happens, your life begins to move again, because you are no longer living in what is over. You are finally living in what is here. There is something even more subtle than holding on. It is not just that you remember the past, it is that you keep reopening it. You don't just think about what happened, you feel it again. You go back into the moment, as if it is happening now. You replay the words, you relive the emotions, you rebuild the scene inside your mind, and each time, your body reacts. Your chest tightens again, your mood drops again, your energy shifts again. Even though nothing is happening in the present, your system believes it is real. This is how the mind keeps pain alive. In Buddhism, the mind does not suffer only from what happened. It suffers from what it keeps repeating, because every time you revisit a painful memory, you are not just observing it, you are reinforcing it. You are strengthening the emotional pathway connected to it. It becomes easier to access, quicker to trigger, deeper in impact, and slowly, pain becomes familiar, not because it belongs to you, but because you keep returning to it. Now, notice something important. There is a difference between understanding the past and reliving the past. Understanding brings clarity. Reliving brings attachment. When you understand, you step back. You observe what happened. You see the lesson. You recognize the pattern. But when you relive, you step inside it again. You feel it. You react to it. You become it. And the more you become it, the more control it has over you. This is where suffering deepens, because now the past is not just behind you, it is inside you, active, repeated, unresolved. And this repetition creates identity. You begin to define yourself through what happened. I was hurt. I was betrayed. I was treated unfairly. And these statements start to shape how you see yourself. They influence how you think, how you react, how you trust. So even when the situation is over, its impact continues, not because it is still happening, but because it is still being replayed. In Buddhism, this is the cycle of mental conditioning. What you repeat, you strengthen. What you strengthen controls you. So if you keep revisiting pain, pain becomes your default state. Not always visible, but always present beneath the surface. Now, look at how this affects your present life. You meet new people, but old memories influence your trust. You face new situations, but old fears shape your reactions. You try to move forward, but something inside keeps pulling you back, and it feels confusing, because logically, you know it's over. But emotionally, it still feels active. That is the power of repetition. Now, understand this clearly. The goal is not to erase the past. The goal is to stop feeding it, because every time you give it attention, you give it energy, and energy keeps it alive. So the shift is not in forcing yourself to forget. It is in changing how you relate to the memory. Instead of entering it, you observe it. Instead of reacting to it, you allow it to pass. You see it as a thought, not as reality. And this takes practice, because the mind is used to going back. It is used to replaying. It is used to attaching meaning and emotion. But with awareness, you begin to interrupt the pattern. The memory appears, and instead of following it, you pause. You notice it. You feel the urge to go deeper, but you don't. You stay present. And in that moment, you weaken the cycle. You stop reinforcing the pain. You stop training your mind. to stay stuck in it. And, slowly, something changes. The memory loses intensity. It appears less often. It affects you less deeply, not because it disappeared, but because you stopped feeding it. This is where healing actually begins, not in revisiting the wound again and again, but in allowing it to close. Because wounds don't stay open by themselves. They stay open when they are constantly touched. And every time you go back, you touch it again. So, awareness becomes your protection. You don't deny what happened. You don't suppress what you feel, but you stop reliving it as if it is still happening. You give yourself space. You give your mind stillness. You allow time to do what repetition was preventing. And in that space, healing begins. Because you are no longer training your mind to stay in pain. You are training it to return to the present. And in the present, there is no past to relive. Only awareness. Only now. And in that now, you are no longer controlled by what hurt you. You are free from repeating it. When you don't master your mind becomes your most dangerous controller. It doesn't announce itself. There's no warning, no clear moment where you say, "Now I'm losing control." It happens quietly. A thought appears, simple, ordinary, and without noticing, you follow it. It says something like, "What if this goes wrong?" And immediately, another thought builds on it. Then another. Then another. And before you realize it, you are inside a full story. A story your mind created. Your body reacts. Tension rise. Your breathing changes. Your mood shifts. And now, it feels real. Even though nothing actually happened. This is where control begins. Not outside you, but inside you. In Buddhism, this is called identification. You don't just experience the thought. You become it. You don't just notice fear. You become fearful. You don't just see doubt. You become doubtful. And once you become the thought, it controls you completely. Now, pause and look carefully. Where did it start? Not with an event, not with reality, but with a single thought, unobserved, unquestioned, allowed to grow. And because you didn't see it clearly, you gave it power. This is the danger of an untrained mind. It doesn't need others to control you. It can do it by itself. It can create fear without danger. It can create anxiety without threat. It can create insecurity without reason. And once it does, you react to it as if it's real. That is how deeply it controls you. Now, go deeper. Your mind is constantly producing thoughts. All day. Some useful, some neutral, some harmful. But if you are not aware, you treat all of them as truth. You don't question them. You don't observe them. You follow them. And whatever you follow shapes your reality. So if your thoughts are negative, your experience becomes negative. If your thoughts are fearful, your experience becomes fearful. Not because reality changed, but because your interpretation did. In Buddhism, this is ignorance, not lack of intelligence, but lack of awareness. You don't see the difference between the thought and the one observing it. So you become trapped inside your own mind. And when that happens, control is completely lost. Because now, you are not directing your life. Your thoughts are. They tell you what to fear. They tell you what to avoid. They tell you what you can or cannot do. And you listen, automatically, without seeing that they are just thoughts, not commands, not reality, just mental activity. Now imagine something different. The same thought appears. What if this goes wrong? But this time, you don't follow it immediately. You notice it. You see it as a thought, not as truth. You don't suppress it. You don't fight it. You simply observe it. And something subtle happens. It loses intensity because it is no longer being fed. You are not adding more thoughts to it. You are not building a story around it. You are just watching. And in that watching, you create space. Space between you and the thought. And in that space, control returns. Because now, you can choose. You can choose whether to engage with the thought or let it pass. You can choose whether to act on it or stay still. And that choice is power. Without it, you are controlled. With it, you are free. This is the core of mastering the mind. Not stopping thoughts, not forcing silence, but seeing clearly, recognizing that thoughts come and go. They appear, they stay for a moment, they disappear. But you are not them. You are the awareness in which they appear. And once you realize that, everything changes. Thoughts can still arise, fear can still appear, doubt can still show up, but they no longer own you. They no longer decide your state. They no longer control your actions, because you are no longer identified with them. You are observing them, and an observed thought has far less power. Now, understand how important this is. If you don't master your mind, you will always feel controlled, sometimes by others, sometimes by situations, but mostly by your own thinking. And that is the most dangerous form of control, because it is invisible. It feels like you. It feels like your own voice. So you trust it, you follow it, you act on it, without realizing it is just conditioning, just patterns, just repeated mental habits. But once you bring awareness to it, you break the illusion. You see clearly, this is just a thought. This is just a reaction. This is not who I am. And in that clarity, freedom begins. You are no longer pushed around internally. You are no longer dragged into every mental story. You become stable, grounded, present, and from that place, your actions become intentional, not reactive, not controlled, but chosen. And when your actions are chosen, your life becomes yours again. Because the moment you master your mind, nothing can control you the same way again. Not others, not situation, not even your own thoughts. When you reveal your plans too early, you drain your power before action even begins. It feels exciting at the beginning. You get an idea, a clear vision, something new you want to build or become, and, for the first time, it feels real. You can see it in your mind. You can feel the direction. You feel a kind of energy rising inside you. So you do what feels natural. You share it. You tell someone close to you, then maybe a few more people. You explain what you're planning, what you're about to do. And in that moment, something happens. You feel good, almost as if you've already started, almost as if you've already moved forward. But look closely. Nothing has actually changed in reality. No action has been taken. No step has been completed. And yet, you feel satisfied. This is the first shift, because the energy that was meant to push you into action gets released through words. In Buddhism, intention without discipline becomes illusion. You mistake expression for progress. Talking about it feels like doing it. And the more you talk, the more that feeling grows. You start to feel accomplished before you've actually accomplished anything. And that weakens your drive, because the mind has already received a reward. Approval, excitement, recognition. Even if it's small, it's enough to reduce the urgency to act. Now go deeper. When you share your plans early, you also expose them to external influence. People respond. Some will support you. Some will doubt you. Some will question your ability. And even if you think it doesn't affect you, it does, because their reactions enter your mind. A small doubt they express becomes a thought inside you. A hesitation they show plants uncertainty. And now, the clarity you had in the beginning starts to fade. What once felt simple now feels complicated. What once felt certain now feels fragile. And this is how your power weakens. Not because the idea changed, but because too many voices entered it too early. In Buddhism, a focused mind is a protected mind. When your intention is still forming, it is sensitive. It needs space. It needs silence. It needs to grow without interference. But when you expose it too early, you disturb that process. It's like planting a seed and then digging it up repeatedly to check if it's growing. You don't give it time. You don't give it stillness. And without that, it struggles to develop. Now understand something even deeper. Sometimes, sharing your plans is not about connection. It's about seeking validation. You want someone to say, "That's a great idea. That's impressive. You're going to do well." And when they say it, you feel a boost. But that boost is temporary, and it comes at a cost. Because now, your motivation is partially tied to their approval. And, if later, their energy changes, your motivation shifts with it. That is subtle dependence. And dependence weakens action, because real action comes from inner clarity, not external reinforcement. Now imagine a different approach. You have an idea. You feel the same energy, the same excitement, but this time, you stay quiet. Not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting. You let the idea stay within you. You sit with it. You refine it. You begin acting on it without announcing it. And something changes. Your energy stays contained. It builds. Instead of being released through words, it is directed into action. You take small steps. You move forward quietly, and with each step, your confidence becomes real, not imagined, not spoken, but experienced. And now, when you eventually share, you are not sharing a plan. You are showing a result. That is power, because it cannot be questioned the same way. It cannot be weakened by opinion. It stands on action, not intention. In Buddhism, silence is not emptiness. It is strength. It allows things to develop without disturbance. It allows focus to remain clear. It allows your energy to stay directed instead of scattered. And when your energy is not scattered, your actions become sharper, more consistent, more grounded. Now look at the difference clearly. When you reveal your plans too early, you release energy, invite doubt, and reduce urgency. But when you protect your plans, you build energy, maintain clarity, and increase action. One leads to illusion. The other leads to progress. This is why not everything needs to be shared immediately. Some things grow stronger in silence. Some things require time before exposure, because the early stage of any goal is the most fragile. And what is fragile needs protection, not attention. So you learn to hold your vision quietly. You let your actions speak first. You move without announcing every step. And in that quiet movement, you build something real, something stable, something that cannot be easily shaken, because it was not built on words. It was built on discipline. And the moment you understand this, you stop giving away your power before you even begin. You stop mistaking talk for progress. You stop seeking early approval. And you start moving in silence, with clarity, with focus, with control, because real power does not rush to be seen. It builds until it cannot be ignored.